Okay, in this video, we're going to look at discussions in Schoology. So if you're in Schoology, you're going to be in a course or a sandbox course that you've created for yourself under the Materials tab. And once you're in that Materials tab, if we go to Add Materials, we can go to Add Discussion. So once you're in this discussion, you can title it. So we'll say discussion 1. And then the description box is really, that's the bulk of whatever it is that you want your students to discuss. So this could be a getting to know you activity. This could be a discussion on whatever topic it was for that unit or that lesson. Whatever it is that you want students to have a conversation about. You want to include any content that they'll need context. And then whatever it is, you know, if you have a couple prompts or please, you know, respond to each other. Whatever that looks like for that discussion, you want to put in the description. If you have a certain due date, you can assign that here. So let's say we want this discussion to be over. You want them to make sure they go in there and engage in the discussion by a certain date and time. Again, I kind of like to keep this not, you know, like maybe 7 p.m. just so if you do 12, you know, 12 midnight, you might get students that kind of wait until that last minute and then they're up super late. So I would probably suggest moving that due date, that time to, you know, maybe a 7 or an 8 p.m. depending on, you know, the age of your students. You can give it a point value. You don't have to. So if it's just, you just want them to discuss, there's no grading, you can turn that on or off. But if you do enable grading, this is where, just like with other assignments, you need to pick a category. The time period defaults to whatever the course is. If you want to scale up, you know, 10 points, but you really want it to be worth double that, you can factor, use that factor feature. And then just like any other assignment or test or quiz, you know, you have the scale or the rubric, you can align it to learning objectives. Here are the options. You can also, like with some of the other features, you can assign it individually to certain students. So if maybe you have different discussion questions for different groups of kids. So let's, if you have, you know, your class is cut into 3 sections and they're each kind of working on their own thing and maybe rotating through. Maybe this first discussion question is only to 1/3 of them, and you know that later the other 2/3 will get that question at a later date to discuss. So just depending on, you know, whole group, or you could assign it to just certain students if you want that discussion to be smaller. You can lock or unlock. So if you lock this, another option comes up to, if you want it to open on a certain date and close on a certain date, you have that ability. You can also choose to not publish it until you're ready for students to engage in that discussion. And members can see other responses before participating. So if you have this selected, like I just clicked it, now it requires members to post before revealing other responses. So if you want to get, if you're asking a prompt and you want students to be able to kind of express their own ideas or their own thinking first, you want to select this because they have to post something and then they'll see other students' responses and then they can respond back and forth from there. So it just depends again on what your purpose is for this discussion, but that's kind of a nice way to make sure that you're getting what they initially think before they start seeing what their classmates responded with. So that option, depending on what you want, you just want to select you know, turn on or off this little icon here. So if I say create, no, I'm going to turn off grading. So that might happen to you too. That's okay. So I'm going to turn off grading so I don't need to fill in all that other stuff. Okay. So now this discussion question, again, I can move this up if I didn't want it underneath Unit 2. Maybe I want it as part of Unit 2. I just need to pull it up so that little gray box shows up under Unit 2. It tells me when it's due, the time, and it also gives students what the prompt or the topic is right underneath the title. So from here, this is where, if we go back to course options, I mentioned this in a previous video, but if you go to course options, you can moderate posts. So if you're worried about kind of the content of what students might say, if you go to moderate post, you can actually see all of the posts in one place. So this one says now there are no deleted posts for this course. If a student posted something and deleted, you can still go in and see it. But I can, right now, moderation is not on, so students can post, you know, whatever it is. There, you don't have controls I don't have controls at this point. If I want to make sure I kind of preview posts before they're submitted, I can enable moderation, and it will ask me if I'm sure. If I say yes, enable, now it will ask me to approve or delete posts before they get actually posted live online. So there is a way to moderate posts if that's something that you need within your discussion posts. So that's how you create discussions. So you can move them around, you can turn them published or unpublished depending on if you're ready for students to engage in that conversation. It also populates in this upcoming events. It does keep a list of all of the things that are kind of on the to-do list for a course.